And today here, I would love to introduce you all to my dear colleague, I guess, at this point, because we presented at the All Black National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. We spoke about trauma in general. And today here is James Harris with Men to Heal. And I specifically wanted to interview him so that I can talk about how trauma shows up and particularly with men. And there are a lot of male clients that I have, and I come across a lot of men who have been affected by very painful memories in their practice. And I was very impressed with what Mr. James Harris talked about in our session together at the All Black National Convention. And I brought him here today because I really wanted him to talk about exactly what healing looks like for Black men with trauma. I feel that their needs and their desires and their particular issues are unique. And so I want to begin today. Mr. James, please tell everybody who you are and a little bit about yourself. Of course, you can get all his information in the show notes, but go ahead. Welcome, Mr. James.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. So I'm James Harris. I'm a father, veteran, entrepreneur, therapist, located in Virginia. I'm the founder of a movement called Men to Heal, which focuses on men's overall wellness, their mental health, physical health, and of course, their emotional health. And I'm also the author of a book called Man, Just Express Yourself, which is an interactive planner guide for boys and men to better express themselves. You can get that on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart, pretty much anywhere books are sold. And also my website. So while you're on my website, be sure to check out my board game as well. I created a board game for adults, couples, date night, game night, your girls' nights. It's pretty much interactive. One set of cards is for spontaneity. Sometimes people run low. And the other set of cards are for those questions that you should ask throughout your relationship to make sure y'all growing together, make sure y'all stay on the same page. And it comes with dice and pawn pieces so you can move around the board. So feel free to hit my website up. Also, my website is my YouTube channel where I talk and break down several different things, one for fellow clinicians, one for men and women and families, and also just a lot of different education on different topics that people normally wouldn't have access to. So that's me in a nutshell. Just want to give back, just want to help people and be an ally.
I think this is so beautiful. I am a college professor, and I'm in the master's program, and I'm teaching people in my classroom all about how to become therapists. And very rarely do I get a Black male in my class. Like it's all this profession is dominated by women, very much dominated by white women. And although I teach the diversity class and I teach about cultural competence, it's always nice to see Black men really confronting a lot of the issues related to Black men. And I think that, it's just wonderful. And we all get excited in our field to see someone like yourself who have such a great history as a veteran and all of that kind of tackle some of these issues, particularly with men and how men connect with each other and connect with their partner. And I think that is just really remarkable. So this is exciting. One thing that I wanted to ask you about was that I think that uh, sometimes we have these painful memories that happen to us when we're younger. And for as a Black female, I have my mom to talk to. I have my girlfriends that I can talk to. I have my husband that I talk to. Lord knows he hears a lot about what's going on with me and painful memories or difficulties in my life. And I have been socialized in some way as a woman, to talk about these things a lot more freely. I have emotional outlets. And I've noticed in my practice that even in my practice and just in my personal experience, that men do not have this sort of outlet. And I think that men, and particularly Black men, have a lot of pressure put on them, and it's bottled up inside. And what happens is that a lot of times we get these messages that men need to be tough and men need to have a thick skin, and men need to persevere and overcome. And a lot of times they just don't have this avenue. And sometimes it comes out in anger, it comes out in all these different ways. And so I brought you here today so that we can have a conversation about that. And, just as a reaction to what I'm just saying, what have you noticed with Black men, and in particular, painful memories related to Black men and how it shows up in your practice?
Yeah, so I would say I would have to disagree with you
Oh,
in
okay.
your comment of men don't have those people to go to, because the reality is we do, they do. It's just the ability to articulate how we're feeling,
Oh,
because I have that circle around me, but can I go to them and say or express these different things without feeling chastised, without feeling demonized, or without feeling those pressures that society put on, and getting that feedback of man up, toughen up, just deal with it, or whatever the case is. So again, I will argue that we have those same abilities, the coaches, the colleagues at work, the people in the community. We can go to those people, but are they going to be receptive and not,
ah,
dismiss us and validate us? So it's a difference. And also, I would like to add too, when we're dealing with trauma, we have to realize that trauma is a response that's deeply distressing and disturbing. It's pretty much it overwhelms our ability to cope, and causes us to have
yes.
feelings of, helplessness, a sense of the ability to feel like a wide range of emotions. So that's why in encompass that aspect, a lot of men only feel those two emotions, either happiness or sad, not knowing that it's a lot of other emotions within that. But the ability to express those things freely oftentimes get dismissed. And then with that trauma, of course, you become numb and desensitized. It becomes normal to you. And then, of course, being an African American man, it's a lot of complex trauma. We seeing, the hypervigilance by driving. We see the police. We see somebody who look like us who potentially view us as a threat while we're viewing them as a threat. So it's so many different aspects of the trauma of being a Black man. But again, I will argue we have those same outlets and resources. We just tend not to go to them because of the reception that may happen if we display those things.
I love what you're saying, and it makes perfect sense to me. It's almost like, okay, there are places where they could actually open up and connect, but it's the ability to be able to do so and to be able to articulate that. And then, even if you know how to articulate it, is it going to be received, or is it going to be dismissed or invalidated? And who wants to be dismissed and invalidated when you're talking about really painful things in your life? So
And
that
if
makes perfect sense.
yeah, so if you think about it, like catch that young male at his earliest state, right? Let's say it's a household siblings, a boy and a girl. They both fall down. The girl runs to mom and dad, say, "Hey, I scraped my knee." The girl is getting, "Oh, precious band-aid, let's do this." But the boy is getting, "Go back and do it again, get back on the bike," or whatever the case is, which means at that earliest state, that's his first time being dismissed by the people who love him. So of course he's growing up naturally thinking like, I can't tell them this, they're going to tell me just to go back, or it's not as important, or it's not really nurtured like my sister's was. And then of course it grows throughout the relationships. I would tell my girlfriend or my fiance or my wife this, but she gonna think I'm soft, or she gonna, she's not gonna think I'm. So that's what happens. It's a constant cycle throughout the adolescence and of course throughout the manhoodness of it. And then that happens in a magnified too when you're in sports or in the workplace or in the community. You feel as if I can't tell them that I'm hurting right now. They're expecting me to perform. They're expecting me to provide. They're expecting me to be the man. They're expecting me to take control of these situations. So all of those things tend to weigh on some men. And then of course those additional pressures of what it actually is.
Oh, I really love that because what happens is that when you talked about how they feel, it's either like you said they feel like two emotions. Usually it's like anger. What were the two emotions that you said they normally feel?
Happiness
Uh,
and sadness.
Happiness and sadness.
Yeah.
And that's just two. I mean, we're all human and we feel a range of emotions. And so you're not ever allowed to be able to fully experience what you're feeling. What you're doing is, men are told, and Black men are also told, to cut themselves off from fully expressing how they feel. Fully crying about it can really help them. And so they're socialized to believe that this is what manhood means. And that can translate into depression and inability to cope, because you spoke about coping.
Yeah, so I mean that inability to express yourself or having a circle that you feel that you can express yourself to is a difficult one because you might get chastised, you might get pushed away, and that's a big thing because you're expecting to like even if you're married, you're expecting your partner to be your safe place to land, but if it's a situation to where they too are telling you, nah, don't say that, you supposed to hold me down and you're supposed to be whatever. Like all again, those things can be difficult if one feels that he doesn't have an outlet to be free and his authentic self and expressing how he truly feels.
Being their authentic self. It's like, how can you have a relationship with someone and have a deep connection with someone when they feel like they have to put up a veneer and they just can't be their authentic self? So it really does have, um, men walking around thinking that nobody knows them. There really is no intimacy with them. Well, this is pretty fascinating. So, what would you say in terms of your treatment to, first of all, get Black men to get to a space where they do feel comfortable opening up? And what do you do to help other people to say, hold on, let's not invalidate them, let's embrace them and make them feel comfortable being able to get all of these things off their chest?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I guess it would start with education too, because you spoke of trauma early. So, what I tend to do in my sessions is educate that man on specific diagnoses and characteristics that he might be displaying. Because a lot of times, not only men, but a lot of women too are, I guess, ignorant to what diagnoses are, and they think that it's specific to one set of gender. But that's not true because some of the emotional signs of trauma is, of course, sadness, anger, denial, fear, and shame. And men can have those, and women can have those. And when you don't address those things, of course, within trauma, that's when you can get the nightmares. You can have insomnia. You can have difficulty in relationships. You can have the emotional outbursts. And again, these things are not specifically to women. These things are human characteristics,
Yes.
but it's often overlooked with men thinking like, nah, that's for women, or I no, that ain't me. And some of the physical signs of trauma is, of course, you got the nausea, the dizziness, the altered sleep patterns, the change of appetite, the headaches, and gastrointestinal issues. That might get passed off as, oh, I ate something earlier, it didn't agree with my stomach, or no, bro, you like, let's slow down, let's, take some time to process what's actually going on. And then within that trauma too, I educate them on the difference between PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, depression,
Mhm.
anxiety, the social symptoms, and how it can lead to potentially substance use problems, because oftentimes, again, a lot of people aren't educated on what trauma is. They just think I witnessed some or observed some or I was in something, and I'm having the repercussions of it. No, it's a lot more within that. Because of course, before you get to PTSD, you got acute stress disorder, which is
Yes. Mhm.
everything that happens within that first month. Anything beyond that month, whether it's a month and a day, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, is post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot of people don't know that you can repress things for so long and then it just hits you 50 years from now. You man in your have this recollection of something that transpired when you was a teenager or in your early adulthood life, so those things are important to understand. And then of course too, we educate people, I'm sure you do, on the difference between small t's and big t's, because
Mhm.
with men a lot of the small t's are traumatic and not so much of the big t's. And what I mean by small t's: relationship issues, divorce, um, going back and forth to court for child custody. Those things are traumatic for men. Work
Yes,
stress,
they are.
financial troubles, those things, because society put so much pressure on men to provide, and the aspect of providing has become taken care of financially, not so much emotionally and nurturing, so those things are difficult. They tend to, magnify. Like if you think about trauma, people think about terrorism, they think about the natural disasters like hurricanes and stuff like that, shootings, rape, sexual assault, and stuff like that. But again, it's more to trauma than just those big T's, So again, that education process happens, and then I think men and women realize, like, oh man, I need to process it. I need to slow down and take a look at what actually happened to me, and I need to figure out how I can grow from this experience and get to a destination, or either at least start the process of what my healing journey may consist of.
Oh, I really love what you're saying. I like the education piece, it's very important. It's like psychoeducational piece. It helps, first of all, it helps to normalize what's going on with them. And when they start seeing it, it's almost like when you know better, you do better. And you proceed accordingly. I really like the part about, when men feel like they can't be human, you are just too, you can't be nurtured or have that emotional connection. It's almost like I want to be able to be human too. And I've heard a lot of men, Black men in particular, talk about these things. So it makes sense to me now. And the somatic complaints, yeah, I mean that's what happens, and it's because you're just mitigating. You're cutting yourself off from the experience. Therefore, you're cutting yourself off from yourself. And it is, you have to somehow take these painful memories and reincorporate that into your story in a way so that you don't feel like you need to mitigate, which means you're going to use substance abuse, you're going to escape with any sort of addictions. And there's all different types of addiction. Work addiction is one of them. It's not even just substance abuse, which is not a really good way of looking at it, but burying yourself into your work is another way for, I see, men do in a lot of ways because it's socially acceptable. It's okay to work a lot, and we're given these messages that it's okay.
But it's avoiding the actual situation.
Yes.
You're avoiding the actual ability to confront what has taken place or the process what has taken place, and it can be an issue. Again, if you don't address these things and process these things as early as possible, they'll manifest themselves in other areas of your life in which you probably don't have any control. Like your children would then view certain aspects, your partner would view certain aspects, your coworkers or teammates. Like all of those things can have alternate cycles that can continue to repeat themselves if they're not properly addressed. And again, you're talking about the addiction piece or the substance use piece. Again, that's a way of not dealing with it either. But when you come down from that high or that intoxication, that issue is still present. Or what happens with a lot of men is the being promiscuous. That's a sign
Yes.
of
Mm-hmm.
you know, me validating my experience by conquering as much as I can, not knowing that you still have to address what happened. If not, you're going to continue to conquer, 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 and you still have this void within inside of you. And of course, you got the other reckless behaviors, the speeding, the reckless driving, and all of those things too. But again, like you have to process what has taken place within a traumatic state or within your life, and move forward from it, or at least get on the road to deal with it in a way to where it's not spilling over in other aspects of your life and affecting people who, care for you or vicariously are being affected, because that's what happened too. People tend to get displacement. There's a chapter in my book on displacement. Like in so many aspects, like the children, the partner gets it when all of that anger and heat is meant for somebody else. Like if somebody at work is annoying you or you having issues with your boss, you know the consequences of firing back at your boss or antagonizing that coworker. You can get written up or terminated. So you don't. So you go home, and what happens? The partner is in there cooking, and why are you banging the pots and pans so loud? Like
Mm-hmm.
that anger isn't even meant for them, but that's who gets it, and of course the children gets it as well. So again, those cycles are being repeated without you even being consciously aware of it.
It's
So
unconscious, yeah.
yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
why you got to process these things.
So what would you say then? Because I'm hearing exactly what you're saying about how do we address, needing to address these things. And what would you say is the best way to address this void that's going on instead of doing these behaviors? That's all it's going to do is make your life worse. It's not going to make it better. How do we address the void that's going on for a lot of Black men?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, like I said earlier, the education piece is important. I'm not one of those people who say go to therapy to change your life. I am an advocate for therapy, but I'm also an advocate for things that are therapeutic, that might help you and push you in the direction to want to talk to somebody who has a little bit more experience, education, case studies, and background for this stuff, which is phenomenal. But again, like everybody has different resiliency levels and everybody's on a different journey. So I'm not gonna say go to therapy to change your life, but I would say do some things that are therapeutic to make you want to gain insight on it might be different if I talk to Dr. Alicia, or it might be different if I talk to Mr. Harris, or it might be different if I talk to this therapist with this practice near my house. All of those things can get you to that point of being challenged in a way. Because in my practice, I do CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, and I also do
Mm-hmm.
reality therapy. And reality therapy address the issues within the now. I'm meeting you where you are, and we're processing these things to prevent moving forward on different aspects. And of course, CBT is cognitive behavior therapy. We're addressing what the issue is, we're processing what the issue is, and we're giving exercises to confront those issues and potentially reduce them. And a lot of other people do EMDR, which is phenomenal for trauma. But then, of course, you got hypnosis. But something that you can do on your own in your meantime, like just in the comfort of your own home, is mindfulness. You can do yoga. You can listen to white noise. You can have the candles with aromatherapy and just sit in silence and just think, be one with yourself. And then, of course, if somebody needs it, they can have psychotropic medication or antidepressants. I mean, I'm not a fan of medication. I believe in lifestyle choices. So
Mm-hmm.
it's up to you, but it's an array of things that one can do to be better at their healing journey. Um, so it's up to you.
Yeah, really, and that EMDR is really kind of interesting. It's like, why does it work? No, but it works. We know that it works. It's kind of interesting. And yeah, medication, I agree with you. I'm not a proponent of medication. Maybe if you're in an acute state and like things are really breaking down and you really need to like have some medication short term just so that you can become stabilized. That's medication is great when things are falling apart. So I agree with you. And I'm a CBT girl too. That's just it's just beautiful. And I'm also getting into emotionally focused therapy with Sue Johnson. So I've been getting into a lot of her stuff too. I've been using that in my practice as well. Reality therapy, these are all really great things. I love the mindfulness. I'm really happy with the way our community is going in the direction of being mindful. I'm starting to see a lot of Black men embrace the whole part about yoga and doing mindful practices. I'm starting to see this trend, and I would hope to see more of that. And it just really, it's just odd because it really does work to help you get in connection with yourself, so that you connect with other people in a way where it's very meaningful.
Yeah. So
Wonderful. Hmm.
yeah, I'm in agreement with you, but the issue is, I hopefully it's not a trend or a fad. Hopefully, it is something that people actually want to do
Hmm.
to better themselves. I mean, because you see a lot of celebrities and athletes and entertainers posting stuff, and people gravitate to it. But I want people to actually want to get better with themselves and doing it for the insight of it, not because it's popular or trendy by their favorite, celebrity or whatever. So those things are definitely important, and for a long time, yoga was viewed as one of those things that women do. A lot of men weren't
Hmm.
gravitating to yoga, but now we know the benefits of it. And so earlier, a couple years ago, when I introduced yoga to a couple different men who are athletes, I had to educate them on that as well. Like, yo, yoga would not only strengthen your muscles, so you'll be um, less injury prone,
Hmm.
muscles,
Hmm.
your endurance, of course, your flexibility, your dexterity. When they viewed it that way, they was like, all right, cool, I'll try yoga. But not knowing that there's other benefits of it too, the relaxation piece, the mindfulness piece of it, the centering yourself, so it's a lot of different education and unlearning that a lot of people have to do when it comes to just growing on from that trauma.
It's funny because I see yoga and mindfulness. I definitely yoga. I see yoga as the physical aspect, how it helps your physical body. I see that as just a side effect. I mostly see it more as a mental. It's good for your mental health to stay in the moment because you're not so reactionary. And I know that's what happens when people are, have issues or painful memories or issues with trauma, is that they see everything as a threat, perceived or real. It's going to be a threat to them, and they tend to lash out and they tend to be very reactive and all of that. But the yoga helps you to, and mindfulness all helps you to kind of like, hold on, let me try to think about how I'm feeling. Let me try to like process all of these things. And I think it's like, it's so awesome. I love what you're saying about getting athletes in particular to embrace these sort of things. So anyway, this has been a wonderful conversation. And is there any parting thoughts that you would have for everybody who's listening today about Black men, trauma, healing, all of this that we've talked about today?
Yeah, I think again, one of those tools, because again, not everybody wants to jump head first into therapy. So if you are around men or a partner or a daughter or son, um, assist them by helping them with tools, sending them websites or sending them articles to look at or video clips to look at. So that way they can see, all right, cool, I may need this assistance or I may be causing issues, because if you just say, hey, go to therapy or here go a therapist, you might be met with resistance. So it's different things that you can do. My book is a great tool as well. So be sure to grab that. Man, just
Let's see your book.
yeah, which
Beautiful.
you got. And this is what a lot of people, it was a review on my maybe Yahoo or Goodreads or something. This lady has been married 45 years. She said, I got your book, gave it to my husband. This is the most we talked about feelings and emotions since we've been married. So again, I'm 36. And to hear her being married 45 years, that was gratifying to me. But partners, this is what you do. Grab the book, highlight a couple of different areas you want him to focus on, and then y'all process it together over dinner or date night. So it doesn't feel like a chore to him. It feel like something to enhance y'all relationship. Y'all can talk about these things. And of course, fellas, you can get the book and try to make change within certain areas of your life just to make sure that you're on the right page or you want to stay on the right page. It's all education. It's all helpful insight because sometimes we need tools.
Excellent. This is a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for taking out the time to talk with me today. It has been very informative. I've learned a couple of things myself, and I hope everybody can reach out to Mr. James Harris. Black men, you just heard you need therapy sometimes, and here is someone that I think that you could turn to that would definitely be someone who can give you the psychoeducational approach, who can give you the CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is to me the gold standard a lot of times, reality therapy, someone who is not going to judge you, who's going to really listen to you, and you won't be dismissed. You're going to be welcomed and you'll be loved. So